Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thoroughly Thriving, where we're putting human back in human capital solutions. On today's episode, we're going to hear from an industry leader where they're sharing their thoughts, feedback, and perspective on what's happening in today's world of work. Well, let's stay tuned and perk our ears up for another exciting episode. Well, welcome to another episode of Thoroughly Thriving. And listeners, I am very, very excited for today's guest, as I typically am. But this is a gentleman who I've gotten to know over the last 6 months or so through my network and a friend that I've made over the last couple of years. But we are joined by a guest who spent decades helping leaders, companies build legendary brands that customers rave about. Scott Wozniak is the CEO of Swoz Consulting, a global speaker and strategist who's advised Fortune 500 companies, tech startups, and brands, iconic brands rather, like Chick-fil-A, where he worked directly with the founding family. Scott is the author of the upcoming book, The Customer Experience Engine, where he breaks down how to create scalable systems that turn everyday customers into loyal fans. Beyond the boardroom, Scott brings a unique edge, and he's an adventure sports enthusiast, classically trained musician, and he's passionate about helping leaders build lives and businesses that they thrive with purpose. Wow, there is so much to unpack there. We could talk for days just about being a venture sport enthusiast, being classically trained musician. And I know from our previous meetings how passionate you are about helping leaders build lives and scale businesses with purpose. That's exactly what we look to accomplish today. So Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. I've been looking forward to this. We've had some great conversations. I guess we're finally going to record one of these.
That's right.
If it's anything like the ones we've already had, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, excited to have you, Scott, as well. And, Darren, you left out child actor in there as well, but we'll unpack some of that as we go. Scott, I always tell...
Yeah, Sean, come on, man. I slipped him a 20 not to bring that up. Forgot to give you...
Hey, you got to send me you got to send it both ways here, Scott. Got to send it both ways. But yeah, we're excited to have you on and excited to jump right into the conversation today, Scott, because I think, it's less about what Darren and I have to add. We'd love to hear from you. Your background and your story is very unique, and yet you bring such a great value add to so many different people. You're not limited in that capacity. And, I look back at some of the transitions you made from a career pathway, from Chick-fil-A to Swoz Consulting. Like, you've worked directly with the founding family of Chick-fil-A, and now you consult with leaders all around the globe. What are some of the core principles that you've carried from the experiences that you've had into your current work with Swoz Consulting?
Man, a lot. Okay, so long story short, I was a consultant. I went to high school with the current CEO of Chick-fil-A, knew their family for ages, but I was not thinking that as a career. I went off and became a consultant and was trying to travel in the world, building cool companies when they invited me back. And I say that because, man, what I learned working for them and the job I did for them taught me even more than I had learned getting a master's in business and becoming an international consultant, because I ended up with this crazy cool job that still informs everything I do today. My job literally was not to run one of the departments. I was this kind of specialty team that worked with the executive team. And our job was to study the best brands and the best companies in the world, learn how they operate, and bring those ideas back. 50% of the time, go inside other companies. The other half, turn it into some sort of systemic upgrade for the company. And so I'd say this, I think I'm still doing the same job. I left Chick-fil-A, and then the first client to sign me when I left was Chick-fil-A. So I sort of didn't leave Chick-fil-A, but technically I'm not on staff there anymore. Now I'm a consultant to them, but I'm basically doing the same stuff. I get to go inside companies, learn how they operate, and bring it back. And if I could summarize up a few of the biggest lessons, we can go pages on this, like the details of, and we didn't just study restaurants. We studied manufacturing companies for the excellence process. We studied storytelling companies like Pixar for how do you do great events and marketing. We went to leadership. We talked to GE and Harvard Business School and say, how do you guys do this? And so all over the map, and a few things I've learned. First is this: before you get to the fancy stuff, get operational excellence right. See, the first question your customers ask is not how fancy are you, how cool are you, how sexy is your product. The first question your customers ask is, can I trust you? Can I trust you? And man, trust is calculated different than how cool and fancy you can be. Because the hard truth is this: being inconsistently excellent earns you the same amount of trust as being consistently bad. You don't get partial credit for partial excellence, not on the fundamentals. There's some things that, yeah, we do them once in a while and they blow people's mind, but they're kind of fun and irregular, right? We surprise people. But there's some fundamentals that you got to get right pretty much every day. You don't have to be perfect, and nobody's perfect, but man, you got to get to a certain threshold of consistency or they don't trust you. And if they don't trust you, nothing else matters. And I can't tell you how many companies I go into and we'll look at them and they're pitching me all their cool cutting edge strategies and they're missing some fundamental details. I mean, basic stuff in their industry because they're so distracted with all the shiny objects. And they're just like, why isn't this working? And it's like, aren't our ideas cool enough? Can we make them even cooler? And it's like, hold on. I love that stuff. Like innovation is my jam. Let's push the edge. But none of that matters if you don't get operational excellence. So that's one of the lessons I learned at Chick-fil-A. They're known for lots of creative stuff in their industry, first to do this and there's still a few things they're doing that nobody else is doing. And if you actually talk to them about what they care about most, they're like, ooh, let's talk about how we shave 5 seconds off the drive-through. Or man, we've got a new technique that might make our fries a little bit fresher. And you're like, fries, hot fries, come on, this is not a new idea. And they're like, you don't understand. This is the first promise of the brand. Am I going to deliver something I can count on?
Wow. That's so good, Scott. I've subscribed to this thought around ability, and Sean's heard me talk about that the best ability, in my opinion, is dependability.
Ooh,
I think it's exactly what you just conveyed,
yes.
but also being innovative. My uncle, who is just a titan in the business world, he talks about when the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside, the end is in sight. And
Yeah.
so when things are happening around us and we're not quick to change, adapt, and optimize that operational excellence that you talk about, that's when we're kind of left on the side of the road or on the vine to kind of shrivel up, right? If we're
100%.
not acutely aware of what's happening around us to better serve our customers, the industry, whoever we call, an end user in
Yeah.
our respective business. So I love that. I love that. Scott, you've shared with us in previous conversations just about the customer experience engine,
Yeah.
which is your upcoming book that focuses on building legendary brands with raving fans. Can you elaborate for us on the 5 systems that really constitute the engine and how businesses can implement them truly effectively?
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, this is not. It's a new book, but it's not a new idea. The stuff I've been doing this for 15 years, actually implementing, building. Because what happened was after studying all these great companies, several years into this, we sat down and we're like, hey, there's a pattern. Did you guys? We didn't start with this thesis. We just like go learn how they do it. Go learn how they do it. Go, and we started being like, they all have their own version of this. They all have their own version of this. And so I started scribbling this down. And a part of my job, my challenge was not just to learn, but was to synthesize. Hey, what are all those things, and how do you package it and communicate? Like I would go get all 5. Hey, there's 5 different certifications on that. Well, I go get them all. And at the end, we're like, which one's the best? And I'd be like, well, they all have this. This is unique. So the synthesization, and I started writing this down saying, okay, this is the pattern. And then we end up making this engine diagram. So the engine metaphor really appeals to me because it creates a system mindset. This is a repeatable process You do 1, 2, 3, you get the same output every time. And so this kind of like, hey, let's go from chaos to regular system. And so we noticed there's 3 things. Then we realized, okay, there's a 4th that enables those 3 things. And then I rolled that out. And honestly, the 5th one wasn't on the early versions. And we hit a wall a couple times and we're like, it worked here. It didn't work here. And so we ended up having to add the 5th. And then I've been testing that version of the engine, helping people build it for 15 years now. So all I'd say, this is finally writing it down. Like, hey, we should all that stuff we do with clients. I can't get to enough clients. I'm doing so many speaking gigs these days. I say no to more than I can say yes to. And so how do you keep getting more people helped? We got to put it in a format that you can get it, whether I can physically show up or not. So, okay. So with that frame, I'll blitz through the 5 and we can kind of pick away and react at them. But the heart of the engine are 3 gears. This is the original 3. And the first I just mentioned, operational excellence. In fact, it's the biggest gear in my diagram because we say it's first in sequence and in priority, right? If you don't get that right, none of the other stuff matters. So get consistent on the fundamentals. Then the next are 2 little gears. They kind of run off the momentum generated by the big operational excellence gear. It's kind of like that's the giant flywheel creating all this momentum. Before combustion engines, the engine was a giant stone wheel that was called a flywheel, and you get it spinning. It could take an hour to get humming, but once it's humming, you drop little gears that run off the momentum generated. Well, here are those 2 little gears. The first is personalized service. See, the first question they ask is, can I trust you? But the second question they ask is, do you care about me? Do you care about me as a person? Do I matter here, or is this just another transaction? If you want people to love you, you love on them first. So you make them feel seen and heard and valued. And so there are some tactical things you do. There's 2 basic options. You do high touch things and high tech things. High touch is like that concierge, white glove, premium service stuff. And by the way, if you're not a cool consumer brand, you're like, we're technical, we're business to business. Yeah, you can do that too. Chick-fil-A's version of this, by the way, I'll give you one example. They do lots of little things. But they're kind of famously, if you know in the US, if you say thank you at Chick-fil-A, I'm curious if you guys know this. You say thank you. They don't say you're welcome. They say,
my pleasure.
Come on. Hey, you're well trained. You guys are well trained. Yeah, heck yeah. We stole that from Ritz-Carlton. Listen, we did not invent that. Most people more people go to Chick-fil-A than Ritz. So they're like, oh, Chick-fil-A. Yeah, that's a Ritz. In fact, the CEO of Ritz, we brought him in. He now still gives us a hard time. Like, come on, you guys get credit for our. And we're like, I mean, you can't copyright words, man, not those. So we just stole fine dining stuff and put it in a fast food joint. I've seen this in manufacturing, technical, construction, all healthcare spaces where you're like, this isn't fancy. Why not? Why not borrow some white glove, concierge level little touches? So high touch. And then, man, high tech. You want to go personalized? The single best tool we've got today is a CRM paired with the latest AI tools. And so we have a tech team that helps people set that stuff up. It's not either or. It's some combination of high touch people enabled with high tech tools that allow you to do, we're talking once or twice a year per customer, these tiny little touches that feel like I'm talking to Sean. I'm not, hey, customer, it's like, Sean, I really love your shirt today. Hey, let's talk about the last thing you did with us. And we have some ideas. And this like, oh, they get me. You make them feel seen and heard, and they start to love you for it. So little bits that you just say, we use their name, we do high touch, we proactive, not reactive. Okay, so personalized service, operational excellence, personalized service. Now, if you do this, they love you, but they aren't telling anyone about you. So here's the last gear on how you get them to rave about you, and you create the ultimate outcome of the engine, raving fans. I mean, raving fans will grow your company like crazy. So the last gear is what we learned is people don't tell facts. They don't tell feelings. People tell stories. So you got to create a story-worthy moment, or what we call a memorable moment, something that pops and gets them talking. But the key to this is, and I did this wrong in the early days, I would create a moment that made me look awesome because like think logically, right? I want them to talk about me. I'm going to use Star Wars to illustrate this. As one of my mentors taught me this metaphor. I love it. It's like, wait, I keep wanting to be Luke Skywalker, right? And I'm going to show off my Jedi skills. And it's like, ooh, and everyone's like, check that guy out. He's a Jedi. And it doesn't work. I mean, they might even believe I'm a Jedi. And they don't want to tell my story, man. They always want to tell their story. So you make them feel like they're the hero. They get to play the role of Luke Skywalker. But we got to be in the story or we don't get any business value out of this, right? So our role is Yoda. We're the mentor, the guide that helps them realize, like, you're not a moisture farmer. You're going to save the galaxy, man. You're a Jedi. And so we enable them to feel like they're stinking awesome, at least in some part of their life. They're proud of who they are. Because we think the final question your customers are asking is, how do I feel about myself when I'm with you? Not how do I feel about you? How do I feel about myself when I'm with you? And these three gears, this is what creates raving fans. You have operational excellence, you have some personal service touch, and then you have a moment that pops and makes them feel like, dang it, I'm doing something awesome. And that story goes viral because they want to talk. I mean, look at, like, I work with these guys, right? I mean, those thorough guys, they're pretty amazing. We're the kind of company partners with them. And then they're proud of themselves. And the next thing you know, you're growing a company that just can't stop. So that's the heart of the engine. Now, real quick, the last two pieces I got added. The fuel that feeds the engine, the fourth piece is customer insight. You can kind of go without this one, but it makes everything sloppier and more waste. So instead of guessing, just actually get to know your customer really well. And the more insight you have, the more you can target and pinpoint what kind of Jedi do they want to feel like? What do they care about when they ask about trust, right? So you really get to know them. Customer insight is the fuel feeding my engine. And then the last thing that we added that I'm like, I mean, this matters, but I can't put everything on the engine. And then we found it's non-negotiable. The belt behind all the gears, the thing that is behind the scenes but makes it all possible, is a healthy leadership team. If your whole team doesn't buy it, this is what we found. It's a belt. It synchronizes everything. You can't run half the engine and get half the raving fans. It's like a stack. When you stack them, the normal output is raving fan. And if you yank one gear out of the engine, the whole thing collapses. And you're like, why aren't we getting any results? So you have to have the whole team buy in and collaborate and say, we're all in on this, versus like, I mean, Darren's doing it, but I'm not going to do it. Like, good luck. That wrecks it. If you tell two stories, your customers believe neither. So you have to all point in the same direction or it doesn't work. So that's the engine. Everyone's got their own tactical nuances, but the pattern has held true for 20 years now. Every great company I have ever been in, and I've been inside hundreds, maybe 1,000 plus companies now, they all run this engine if they have raving fans.
Wow. That's a lot to chew on there, Darren. I think, man, Scott, I love how you said though that all of it doesn't work at the front end if you don't have operational excellence. And I think we've seen that in great organizations who have a great story and who do treat people well and everything else, but then it all falls apart because of the fact that there's not, producing that consistency and something that you can really count on. And man, and I love when you're talking about the belt of the leadership team. I know we've all been a part of organizations where, I've heard it said that, a man who has his hands on the oar, who's rowing the boat doesn't have time to rock it. And, we've all been a part of leadership teams where you've got a man or two who's, taking their hand off the oar, so to speak, and, rocking the boat a little bit. And man, I just, a lot to process there, a lot to work our way through. You made a big transition in your career from, I mean, there's a half dozen transitions we could really get into, but the one I really
It's
want to
like
kind of
this
cover
guy, right?
is is talking through, this transition that I think people sometimes will listen to our podcast for. Darren and I, stepped out and did a similar transition ourselves, a little over a year ago. But you transitioned from a great corporate job in what, a lot of people would look at as, one of the top X amount of companies in the country, and made that transition into entrepreneurship, leaving this dream job and to start your own venture. It's really significant. I mean, it's a significant moment, for you, for your family, everybody kind of gathering around. What were some of the challenges that you faced during that transition, and how did you overcome those using, your personal values and some of the core values of you and your family and everyone else as a part of that decision?
Yeah. I mean, let's just be honest. It was terrifying. I mean, it was, so here, the long story short, my long-term plan was I was going to stay at Chick-fil-A, dream job, and retire. And this was going to be my retirement gig, right? They have this very generous pension on top of a 401k match. Plus my wife and I were saving and we're like, I mean, I have a spreadsheet whole. I've kept it as an artifact that I kind of half cry over now still. It's like, this was going to be my smooth and easy plan. And I can retire in my early retirement, like 60, early 60s even. Like, dude, I'm set. Like, so I could do all this with no risk, no uncertainty. It's like, sure, I'll pick up a client. And if I don't, it doesn't matter, right? And then long story short, an organization came and said, we want you to help us. And I actually told them no. I was like, I got a job. I love this stuff. And one of my mentors said, have you really prayed about that? And I was like, no, like, of course not. I've got a dream job. And he's like, that was just not normal. Maybe you should pray about it. And when I did, so I'm going to be a Christian. I had this one of my more powerful spiritual encounters in my life where God really grabbed a hold of me and said, this is me. I want you to go help these people. And I kept being like, Lord, I'd have to leave Chick-fil-A. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, but it's so safe and comfortable here. You're like, yeah. And at the heart of this came down this question, like two things. Did you really mean it when you said you were on this mission? Because my mission was to go help raise up leaders and make a difference in the world. And God said, getting it out all the details, this is a way for you to make a really big impact. And I'm like, but I'm making impact here. He's like, yeah, but I need you to help these people. Like, the burden on my heart for that opportunity. Like, okay, so I got to go help these folks. And then, so there was this missional call. And then he really just like said, do you trust me to take care of you? Okay. Actually, here's what he really said. He said, this is my prayer time. This was kind of an impression in my heart. So if you're not a person of faith, that's okay. But like, this was what was going on in my mind. And it came down, is your trust in me or your trust in Chick-fil-A? And it, like, dang it, right? Like, I don't know if you're a person of faith, but like, crap, like, this is to put my like rubber to the road. Like, do I actually, money where my mouth is, do I actually believe in the bigger picture? Or am I thinking short term, like I want safety and security? And it was like, I could have even more impact over here potentially. And do I really trust that God's promises when he said he would take care of me? And I intellectually believed all that. And then it was like, am I willing to risk my life scenario? Just, I had 4 kids in a private school and a mortgage and a plan. Like, none, yes, I had some savings, but none of this was set up for like the ideal entrepreneurial setup. I had raised $0 and I had no other clients interested. Do you want, so this is not how I recommend you launch your entrepreneurial journey, everybody. There are better ways to do this. And so I did give Chick-fil-A a 2-month notice. The excuse was, man, I got so many projects. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. And the real scenario is like, I'm terrified out of my mind. I got 2 months to figure this joint out. Guess what? As soon as I did that, the first client assigned me was Chick-fil-A. So then the second client was this client, the other people. I came back to him and said, I'm interested. But before they could sign Chick-fil-A, I told them, and Chick-fil-A said, well, you can leave on one condition. We get to lock down some of your time right out of the gate. And I've worked with them every year since. And then it exploded. And within 6 weeks, I had to hire 4 people to help me with the project load. And it was, it's like entrepreneurial journey. It's the roller coaster. I don't know if you guys have seen that meme where it's like it's got it's like an up and down roller coaster and it's got these little comments throughout. And so like it zooms up and you're like, man, I'm a genius. And then it zooms down and you're like, I'm a moron. What was I thinking? And then it zooms up and you're like, I'm going to be rich. And then it zooms down and you're like, I'm going bankrupt. And they're like, a month in the life of an entrepreneur. Like this is one Monday, I'm killing it. The next Monday, I ruined my family. And so it's been a ride. And what I have learned along the way is 2 things. The first is separate from the business strategy, huge part of surviving the entrepreneur journey is managing yourself. The emotional roller coaster, that is as critical to success as the actual strategic stuff. to not panic when things go down, and not go nuts and spend when, like, listen, he smiled at me. I'm sure that's $1 million contract. Like, slow down, buddy. It's all fun and games till they actually give you money, right? Like, everybody's excited to talk. So learning the mental discipline, the spiritual, emotional discipline of like, can I be okay? Because if you zoom out, every year has been a growth year for me. And if you zoom in, I've had terrifying months where it's like all my deals that I thought were going through collapsed and I'm a moron. And so, like, how you survive that, when I talk to entrepreneurs, secondarily am I interested in their strategy, because if they don't have the spiritual, emotional, mental skills to handle that chaos, then it doesn't matter how smart their strategy is. So, so for whatever it's worth, I think God needed to do that for me, because otherwise I would have built this plan. You heard my plan. It was a zero risk plan, and I would not have grown emotionally or as a person, because I was going to do this nice and easy. And weird as it sounds, most of my best lessons and most of my best coaching with CEOs is that I can relate to that wild journey.
That's great.
It turned into being a valuable asset, but dang it if it wasn't terrifying, man.
That's great, Scott.
Well, can I give you two quick lessons on this? Because I got deep on this. One is I didn't have to do it all myself. I found partners. A lot of the stuff I was like, I want to be world class like Chick-fil-A. I couldn't afford world class people to hire me, like hire them in the early days. So I learned I can partner with other buddies like you guys who are doing world class stuff. And I didn't have to be all things to my clients. I could put a little team together, and allowed me to show up at the next level without having to commit big bucks. I got a bunch of other entrepreneurs. We also got to brainstorm with each other and talk business and ideas. And I actually became a part of a small group. I formed my own group of other entrepreneurial guys to go on this journey together. And what do you know? Like, when I was up, he was down, and we encouraged each other. We also swapped services. That was a lifesaver in the process. So you don't, just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean you should run alone. The best metaphor I love for it is a wolf pack. Wolves are not domesticated creatures. They do not like to stay in the pen and on the trail. Like, they want to run wild. Welcome to entrepreneurship, right? The unknown is a benefit, not a price you pay. You're like, yeah, eat what you kill and you never know. Like, that's the game. But wolves don't hunt alone. The best wolf hunts in a wolf pack. So you are a wolf, but you shouldn't hunt alone. Hunt in a pack. And so find your own pack of complementary entrepreneurs. Dude, that is how I got to the other side of this and got to where we have a rockin' team.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love the wolf analogy. I often talk about staying in the middle of the herd or in the middle of the pack, right? If you look at documentaries, Planet Earth ones, right, where herds are crossing the Serengeti, it's oftentimes, Scott, the ones that are on the periphery that are getting picked off by the predators, right? But it's the strongest ones that are in the middle of the herd that are learning from each other, that are benefiting, from the experiences that others have had before them or that they're currently going through. So Sean and I absolutely want to stay in the middle of the pack and get around others like yourself, and your other business partners. So we've appreciated being a part of your herd and part of your pack as well. Um, Scott, as we think about the ever changing landscape of leadership in today's market and today's kind of like commerce, there's so much rapid technology, like the technology advancements that are happening. It's almost like you need to have your finger on the pulse on an hour by hour basis, right? And how that impacts consumer behaviors is perplexing. It's very intriguing. Um, Scott, we're curious, how do you advise leaders to adapt, while maintaining an authentic brand experience?
Yeah. This is the question of our time, Darren. I mean, dang it. My favorite quote in this regard is from William Gibson. He says, "The future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed." Like it's happening. The crazy cutting edge stuff. If you're not the one doing it, it's the other guy that you're competing with who's doing it. And so you don't get to not play with this if you want to make it through the next chapter. So that's the bad news. Here's the good news. You don't have to guess. The fuel that feeds the engine, for in my metaphor, is customer insight. If you ever feel like you have to guess, that's just a signal you don't have enough customer insight. So when you really get, it's a regular system. It's not like I got a good gut. I met that guy. I feel like I know him. You have a regular process. Remember my whole engine metaphor. You put a regular, repeatable set of things you do where you regularly tune into your customers, get their input, check ideas. There's like check the market, check my people, and these little bitty, you don't have to do deep dives every month, but you get this constant feed of inputs. So first critical thing for a leader is you don't just guess. Don't say like, somebody else is they might be serving a different customer profile than you. Um, what do your people want? And if you actually know your people and listen to them, so like, hey, you hear about a cool buzz? Ideally, you just plug it into your customer insight system and ask, hey, would you guys be interested in this? Hey, would this be appealing to you? What do you have you tried this with someone else before? And you'll find out what your customers want so that you can do some research before you bet the farm. So that's the first is don't guess, get customer insight. The second is this. When you think about AI or cool tech or all these changes, these are not a strategy. They are a means to get your strategy done faster, better, smarter. So first figure out how you differentiate yourself. That's a lot of strategies. How do we stand out? How do we win? What are we competitively better at? How do we capitalize on that? So how do you stand out? What operational excellence do you want to deliver? What's the fundamentals, right? How are you going to make a personal touch? What are the ways you're going to celebrate your customers and make them feel like Jedis? You figure that stuff out, and then you bring that to some sort of AI expert, guide, consultant, and just say, hey, what tools do this? What tools do that? Like our current struggles right here, the new thing we want to add is this. Is there stuff for this? And you get really high value. All of these are tools, and tools themselves are not valuable. The metaphor, we've worked with Home Depot and done some stuff with them. And Home Depot actually learned this from them when I was studying great companies on this. They're like, listen, nobody actually wants a drill. A quarter-inch drill is not the point. They want to do a project. Nope, they don't even want a project. They don't want a quarter-inch hole. No, they actually want to hang a picture on their wall. People want to show off their family and memories. And the tool is just a means to the end. That's all technology, whether it's something as basic as a physical drill that's been around for years or one of the new things. First, bring your strategy to a tool expert and say, just like you're at Home Depot, hey, what tool would allow me to do this thing? And you'll get profitable use. If you walk around with a drill and you just start buzzing it and you're like, what could I drill a hole in? You could make a big mess and get no life benefit from that. And that's what a lot of AI guys are doing these days is like, I got this new drill. Let me just start drilling stuff. Like, slow down. Why do you want a new tool? Usually, one or two little changes in a tool, one or two new tools could be all you need to allow yourself to stand out. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go nuts. Start with the experience you want to provide, work your way backwards, and then ask an expert, hey, what tools would get me that outcome? You don't have to stay on the cutting edge. You just have to know somebody who is.
Well, I love the illustration. I think, even in a lot of things that we do in recruitment, we talk about it a lot as being, it's not a super sexy industry, but it's one of the things that's absolutely vital to the success of an organization. But we can have shiny object syndrome and trying to chase technology and chase what's the newest great thing. But I love your insight balance of getting and being on the cutting edge of what do your customers actually want? Because oftentimes we as entrepreneurs think we have the greatest new idea ever. And no one wants it, but we really want it. And, to your point, we end up, wandering off, creating problems we didn't need and, additional challenges. So, all right, well, hey, I want to land, Scott, with a little more of a personal question. As Darren mentioned before, you talked a little bit about your passion for extreme sports, your passion and background in music, and even some child acting. How do some of your personal pursuits really influence the way that you think about and, even just your approach to business and leadership as a whole?
Yeah, two levels. Man, great question. First is I think one of the most important things for all of us is to figure out who we are, how we're wired, and become the best version of ourselves and bring a fully alive version of us to the world. I don't think you were made the way you're made by accident. My worldview, I think God literally like looked back and was like, I would like to see this in the world. So I'm going to set up Sean like this so that he can show up this way. And whether you believe that faith bit or not, there's just something much more attractive and effective and impactful in a person who's fully alive than someone who's kind of like half alive grinding. Um, and more technology is taking away the mindless, monotonous stuff. And what that leaves us with is humans and their analysis and creativity and relationships. We need you fully alive. And some of why I do all these crazy adventures is because it wakes me up. It speaks to my soul. I bring more ideas and energy and creativity because I'm fully alive in the process. So part of it is semi-selfish, right? Like, dang, it wakes me up. It's juice in the battery that says, man, now I got something to bring. However, here's what I would say, and this could be a great lesson for a lot of folks. A huge percentage, I probably ought to look this up, but I mean, at least 50% of the ideas that has made it into our cool, we got all these tactics and tools and systems. Our thing is not motivation, it's tactical systems. How do you build this? And people are like, oh, that one, oh, that one. And so we've got our best of list. I would bet at least 50% of that is ideas drawn from a non-standard industry and put in a typical setting. Like, hey, Pixar, come help us figure out how to do marketing. Pixar's not a marketing firm, but the way storytelling and all this stuff, and like, oh, I get it. We went adjacent, even sometimes two steps adjacent industries, and then we translate that back. And man, the ability to kind of connect the dots from multiple sources. I have people be like, oh, my situation's unique. And here's what I'd say. Some of it is. Sure, some of it is, but some of it isn't. And I mean, like, you can learn, I've learned from horse racing and sumo, some interesting wrestling. Like, sumo wrestling's got some interesting insights in how you build a leadership team. That's another podcast. They're like, what? How would you get into that? The variety of things. What we look for in my team and consultants is what we call a T-shaped person. They have one zone where they have a deep expertise, right? That's the vertical part of the T. But the top part of the capital T, the horizontal left right, is, man, they also have a wide range of hobbies, interests, passions. Like, we look for some diverse stuff on the team. And because we find that combo T-shaped, you need something that you're deep expert in, and then you need some stuff that pulls you out of your zone. I can't tell you how many times I'm hanging with somebody on a heli-skiing trip, talking about the technique of dealing with avalanches, and we're like, click, that's what I got to bring back to my client. What they're facing in their business is a potential avalanche, and they need to run this version of a play to head off the avalanche. What they actually do, they trigger an avalanche. If they think there's a zone, they'll actually trigger an avalanche with a little mini explosive, trigger the avalanche so it's safe, and then we can go down. And there's a whole business application to, like, if it's all on the risk, well, make it happen anyway. Like, make a micro version of it so you can have the controlled problem. You're like, oh, so okay, zoom out. That creativity that comes from adjacent spaces, I think it's actually my competitive advantage. There's a lot of people who can run the financial analysis. Sure, we can do that. I got a master's in business. Not a lot of people in my industry who can pull from the arts and high-end athletics and pull all that stuff in and be in one session. Let's talk about Chick-fil-A while we talk about Toyota manufacturing, while we talk about Broadway performance, and pull all that in one project. Um, yeah, it's my, but I'll put it this way. It's what I'm called to do, is to be that kind of a creative thinker.
Man, I don't know about you, Darren. I feel like I've been drinking from a fire hose on this podcast. Lots of great takeaways and information. Scott, how do our listeners find more information about you and Swoz Consulting?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is just go to swozconsulting.com. That's SWOZ consulting.com. And that, yeah, Swoz, there's all sorts of cool acronyms we've come up for it. But if you're going to be really honest, it was my childhood nickname. So swozconsulting.com. And I kind of like that it's not exactly named for me. So, because I've got like Mensa geniuses on my team. So there's a lot of cool people, but yeah, the origin is it was my old nickname. So swozconsulting.com. That's got links to my personal stuff, the team, the books, all that stuff's on there. So yeah, go check that out.
We'll get that all in the show notes as well for our audience, just to be able to one-click easy access for it. But Scott, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. I know that I've enjoyed it. I know Darren as well. I'm sure has enjoyed it himself.
Absolutely. Yeah. 2 thumbs way up. This has been
I
great.
love it. Well, around here at Thoroughly Thriving, we love to bring a variety of guests on to really add value because we really do believe that, we want you to be thoroughly thriving in every area of your life, professionally and personally, and, all of these areas. But as we always close every episode, we want to remind ourselves that we want to make sure that as we work as one, we win as one. Thanks so much. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you on the other side. Thank you for joining us today for another great episode of Thoroughly Thriving. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it with those in your world. If you'd like to learn more about the Thorough Group, please go to thoroughgroup.com. And remember that we will all remain thoroughly thriving if we continue to work as one and win as one.